Welcome back to Tim's Vinyl Confessions, everyone. I'm Tim Durling with John the Music Nut sitting in once again to continue our Y&T deep dive. Thank you very much, John. This has been so fun going through this band's catalog and really getting into the nuts and bolts of what makes this band so great and what drove me to put this little book together, with which John himself takes part in, and it's called Down for the Count, the Y&T album review, available on Amazon. Thank you very much. And so this goes a step further, and this is like we're going through each album and we're just going to plug away at it and just basically spread the word, because it's all about spreading the word about this band. So Black Tiger is the album that we're going to talk about. I first bought this on a road trip that I made in 1990 after I'd just gotten into Y&T. All that I had was Mean Streak and Down for the Count, because that's all the cassettes that I could find in my local area. I'm pretty sure that that was old stock that happened to still be there. And came back with 3 Y&T albums from this particular trip, this being one of them. In 1982, A&M Records, of course. One that you don't see as often, this is a Canadian version. Nice. Black Tiger. I've never seen a Canadian cassette of Earthshaker. I've yet to see one. Now, you may notice there's no album title there, which is really annoying. This is something that A&M in Canada did around this time, because if you get a Canadian copy of Bryan Adams' Cuts Like a Knife, it doesn't say Cuts Like a Knife. It just has the artist name there. Mm-hmm. And of course, the cassette looks totally different. Right. And of course, now, really the best way to enjoy looking at Black Tiger is the vinyl with John Taylor Dismuke's incredible artwork, the Y&T logo front and center for the very first time. And, in some ways, this album picks up where predecessor Earthshaker left off. And in some ways, it's different. So I think we got the same version of the CD there. That's the one that came from the band.
Yes, I bought this when I saw them the first time in 2015. And although I knew the album for the longest time.
Yeah. This is an older Japanese CD, which for a time, until the band started getting the rights to reissue them, the only way I could find their albums was finding the Japanese imports. So Black Tiger, 4th Y&T album, second for A&M, and the second with the shortened name. And this time around, big name producer Max Norman, who was fresh off producing. Did he do Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman? So
I believe he did. I believe he did them both. Yes.
Yeah. So he had some major cred at this point, and he would go on to become a really well-known hard rock metal producer. He produced, in my world, I think of him as producing the second Coney Hatch album, Out of Hand, and he produced Loudness. But he would have great success producing Megadeth, and most of the 90s. I think he did Rust in Peace, Countdown to Extinction. Mm-hmm. You do Euthanasia? Yeah.
He did. I don't think he did Rust in Peace, but I believe he did do Countdown to Extinction. And the reason I know that is with John Clauser and I on My Music Corner, we were talking about, we did a series on Dangerous Toys, and I believe Max Norman.
Yes,
Max Norman produced one of those albums. I do believe the first. Did he produce the debut? Yes.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Max Norman's at the helm this time, and as a result, it's quite a different sounding album. But let's get into the track by track. I think the first couple tracks, most people would combine them: the short guitar instrumental "From the Moon" and "Open Fire." What do you think of this master track here?
Well, this is like the Hellion into Electric Eye.
Yeah,
for Priest from the same year.
Same year.
Yeah. Now, From the Moon is the 42-second instrumental, which you'll hear later on the album.
Yeah.
That's how much they liked it. Now, it goes into Open Fire, which is the first proper track. What a barn burner of a opening song. This just takes you right in. Leonard Hayes, fantastic on here. What a performance by the whole band. The pre-chorus, "Gonna light my fuse, I'm ready to explode," and then it goes into the chorus. It really brings up the excitement. the solos before they go into the proper solo, when Dave is ad-libbing going, set me free right now, and he's playing the solo, gonna light my fuse, and he's playing that little solo in there. Spectacular stuff that the Scorpions were doing at that point too, where they'd be singing, and the Klaus would sing a line, Matthias would be playing those little sweet solos. Dave was doing it really well on this track. This is a killer song. Later would open up the Open Fire live album, and it just brings in these so like the end of the solo when he's just going down the fretboard. Spectacular.
Yeah.
Fantastic track. Love it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, I had Black Tiger before Best of 81 to 85 or Open Fire, so I heard it in its original studio form. I love the intro, and I think that Dave was just learning. They were experimenting with like digital delays, and so, you know, it was kind of a continuing on from like what Brian May would do, where he would like solo and harmonize with himself with the repeats. And I don't know. I've tried. I try to count, and I lose count every time. But how many overdubs or how many different guitars it would take to reproduce that? It would have to be at least, I'm counting 5, because you've got 2 harmony guitars, and then you've got another lead on top of that. Like it's just very, very layered. And yes, of course, you know, fans know they reprise that melody later. But so yeah, the album's off to a great start. Next up is one of the handful of 45s I have. Don't Want to Lose. This is a UK 45, just a zoomed in shot of the album cover, and the B side is Squeeze. Your thoughts on this one?
Another should have been a hit single. You showed that 45, and you know, I'm like, how did this not make top 40 radio, AOR radio at this time? So melodic, just a great song, great chorus, good verses on here. This just works on all levels. This is very catchy.
Yeah, like 2 choruses.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about it, like either one of those is a good chorus.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone on a chat in one of the videos that I was doing, maybe on Grants Rock Warehouse, and I mentioned Y&T, and I think his name was Logan. He said, "Don't Want to Lose" should have been a hit, and I'm like, absolutely.
I think I know what you mean. I think I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, Logan
should have been a hit.
Collins.
Should have been a video.
Yes.
Should have been a video for it, because this 1982, like it's a little bit. Yeah, I don't know if it would have been like a top 10.
Yeah.
But it could have hit the top 40, because this is a time period where Burning Heart by Vandenberg dented the top 40, or Stone Cold by Rainbow. This would have fit right in with those types of songs.
Or like Emotions in Motion, or
exactly.
Everybody Wants You by Fire.
It could have, it could have, and it should have driven this album into at least gold. So,
absolutely. Fantastic. Very underrated song, because I don't think they played this live much, if at all.
I think they played it. I think, I could be wrong, but let me consult this. I think that it's on the BBC one.
Okay. Yeah, that one I don't know.
Almost there. No, it's not. So yeah, you bring up a good point, because it's on Live at the Mystic, so that's 2012.
Okay.
And that might have been because I know around that time they were starting to do whole albums lives. That might have been one that they looked up and then decided to keep playing it. But I knew it was on one of them. But yeah, a great song. Might not have been the easiest one to pull off live. It's got like some light and shade to it, but I do want to mention though, and I talk about this in the book, I've never been the biggest fan of the production on this album. Never been the biggest fan of the Max Norman production, at least on this album. I think it's a little bass heavy.
Yes.
And I don't think it sounds nearly as good as Earthshaker, and I don't think it sounds as good as Mean Streak, even though sonically it's closer to the production on Mean Streak. There's just something, it's like the treble isn't turned up loud enough. And when Leonard hits the snare drum, it always sounds like he's I know sometimes drummers do this for effect, but it almost sounds like there's a floor tom being hit at the same time every time. And there's just something about it. I always prefer the live versions of these songs.
Oh yes.
But this song is, for years there wasn't a live version. It's just a great song.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. It's not like it's a good recording, but it doesn't have the energy and the fire of Earthshaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds a little reined in. And I mean, I read this back in Circus Magazine Hit Parade. They were even saying that back in the 80s. It does, even in this remastered version, I mean, which sounds very good, but yeah, it does sound a little reined in between when you compare it to the albums that bookend it.
Yeah. Which is odd because I mean Max Norman was a big name producer. This doesn't sound like either of the Ozzy albums either. It's just I don't know. It's interesting. It's an interesting production. I will say this: the thing about
Right.
YT, they switch producers almost every time. They have very very interesting productions on their albums. They don't necessarily sound like other productions by the same producer.
Right.
So next up, Hell or High Water. What do you think of this one?
Oh, this song I really dig. I remember the first time I heard this was my first job. I worked in a restaurant, and one of the cooks had this on a mixtape. That's how I first heard Hell or High Water. What I really like on here is I like the call and response in the choruses, but this is when Dave's lyric, and I'm going to say it's either Dave or Phil writing the lyrics here. He started getting really creative and starting to tell stories. I love the line, I love harmony,
But I
but I
hate
hate to be
to be
homogenized.
homogenized.
That is awesome. And I think about that. I'm like, and when I think about what this song's about, it's like it's Mean Street's little sister. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's just like this slower groove. It's just got a slower groove to it, but catchy as sin. I think this song kicks. I love it.
Yeah, no, it's good. That lyric always threw me. That I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, did he just? Because I mentioned this in the book jokingly. I said it makes me think of milk, homogenized milk. But Peter Kerr had a good point. He always wondered if it wasn't a jab at the record label. Starched shirt, corporate head, steal my heart, you steal my money, and leave me in the red. Like I never
Yeah.
thought about that before. I never thought about that before. It very well could be.
Something.
Yeah, and that's also a song that I heard them because that's on the live at the San Francisco Civic. They do it on there. It's kind of Zeppelin when you think about it. The way that the drums start by themselves and that stop-start guitar, it's kind of got a little,
Right.
not when the levee breaks, but it's got a little bit of that, something off the first couple of Zeppelin albums.
Right.
Then we have a little song called Forever, which I have a US 45 too. No picture sleeve. And States didn't want to spend any money on a picture sleeve, but here you go. What do you think of this song? I mean,
well, here's From the Moon.
Yeah.
One of their most iconic songs. I mean, I first heard this on Open Fire. Fantastic track. Dave's vocals shine like the sun here. The guitar playing on here, it has the big ending, like I Believe in You.
Yeah.
My favorite part of the song though is when they go into that riff, the next riff before the solo.
Yeah.
And then he's playing that. Dave's playing that while the band comes back in, and then Joey's playing the rhythm from the chorus. And I think those two guitars sound perfect together.
Yeah.
And then it just has this long lead, and then it goes into that wild, wicked solo from Dave. And Dave is really holding the notes on that when he holds the note for the song, word Forever right at the end, when they go back into the From the Moon theme at the end. It's a near perfect song. It's one that they play this as an encore sometimes. It always goes over spectacular. Fantastic track. And when you hear it on on Open Fire, and you hear that crowd that's so into it. It's like, I was only 14 then, but I would have loved to have been at that concert.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, shouting forever back at them, like, oh my God. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's generally considered to be one of their best songs, and I wouldn't argue with that. I mean, it's great. It's got
Right.
everything. I mean, it's melodic, and it's got, minor key melodies, and it could be construed as a romantic relationship, but it's got that rocking, driving music behind it, and it's just got a little bit of. It's one of those songs, I think, that encapsulates the entire band really, really well. It's heavy, it's
Yes.
melodic, it's got fantastic drumming, it's got fantastic guitar playing, and you're right. When Dave and Joey lock in, it's like one gigantic big guitar, and
Yep.
you're right. Yeah, you've got Dave playing a different riff with Joey, but they go together. They interlock, and like the best of two guitar bands. And it is neat how they reprised that melody. I picked up on that right away the first time I heard it, but it was like, I know this melody. Why do I know this melody? You just heard it 3 songs ago. So,
Yeah.
and I think it probably wasn't until the second time I put this in that I would get it in my head. Sometimes I'd get it in my head unaccompanied. Sometimes I'd get it in my head with a full band. I'm like, oh, that's neat. And I don't know I wouldn't have known what to call it then, but the orchestration behind that. And then they bring it
Right.
back again at the end. And it's, and they kind of did the same thing again with Midnight in Tokyo on Mean Streak, which we'll get to,
Yes.
without having the intro because I mean, they probably didn't want to repeat themselves, but Midnight in Tokyo is very similar because it starts with the half time
Yeah.
and they're playing the melody, and then they go back into that. But not exactly. It's not quite the same. But yeah, Forever's just an amazing song. And yeah, I'm pretty sure they've not done a concert without doing it. I think this would be a staple.
Yes, this is a
Yeah.
staple for them.
Yeah. As would first song on side 2, the title song, Black Tiger.
Oh, so it's like you hear a song like Forever. How do you follow that? And then you get this awesome intro, very atmospheric. I like how they talked about how they came up with this intro on the On
Yeah.
With the Show documentary. That was
Yeah.
You didn't hear something like this in 1982, but it brings you right in. And when it goes right into that riff, which is killer, that driving that driving pace there. More tricky creative lyrics here, I believe, in this song. Black Tiger, Ready to Strike. I mean, just great chorus. I like the bridge. The bridge is really good on here. I'm a fan of bands that have really good bridges in their songs.
Yeah. Hold out, watch out. Yeah.
That's a great bridge. Fantastic song. There's some nice counter bass lines here from Phil on this song too. I mean, because you
underrated
can really
bass player.
Yeah, he is an underrated bass player, and he gets to shine a little bit on the next song we're going to talk about. So there you
go. Yeah, Black Tiger is a fun, heavy rock song. I love the fact at the beginning of it, you've got the riff going, the straight ahead 4/4, and then at one point, Leonard Hayes switches to a more jazzy, but just for a second, then he does the big snare roll, and he's doing the triplets, and then like, and it kicks in. It's amazing. It's also the guitar solo is the first studio appearance of Dave's toggle switch helicopter effect, where he cuts out on purpose, and he would go on to do that at least 4 more times in solos, and this is probably the most famous one of them. Yeah, it's probably another concert staple, and never get tired of.
Absolutely.
And so next up, things are going to get interesting. Barroom Boogie.
Yeah, I know your thoughts on this song. I like this song a lot, but when I first heard the song was on Open Fire. And I think on Open Fire, it kicks. On here, it's a little too slow, a little too reined in. I do love the lyric though. It's another great storytelling lyric. But it is a barroom boogie. I think it works really well live. I've seen them do it live. Again, the live version on Open Fire, I think, is killer. Here, I like it. I always liked the song, but I think everything before this was lights out great. This it something works better in a live atmosphere, a setting. But it's good. I don't think you think as high of it as I do.
Well, it's one of those things like over the years, because if you were to ask me in 1990, it's all good, it's all great, I love it, they're great.
Right.
I still think they're great, but to me, there's a big dip in the album quality at this point because, like you said, all of side one is fantastic. Black Tiger, the song is fantastic. This always feels like a throwaway to me, even though there's some good chops in it. I mean, you've got, especially in the live version, not only in Open Fire, but the version that's on Best of 81 to 85 that I'm not sure the origin of that. It's just MTV Live.
I believe,
Unless that's a
yes.
song that was cut from what became that home video. I'm not sure because it's not on the home video. But you've got Leonard playing the cowbell against the beat while maintaining the boom, boom. So look, that takes, but to me, the chops are kind of, I don't know. If I saw them in concert, which I never have had the chance to do, would I be screaming along with it? Yes, I would. It would just never be a first choice song of theirs. The only difference is this seems to be like a well-loved live staple. And I do agree there is something that elevates a little bit live because in the studio it falls a little bit flat. Maybe it's the production. I always got a kick out of Dave. Unless you're a star, I've got a PhD, which is the studio version. I've heard him do two different things with it live. Usually, says unless you're a star into Y&T, but if you listen to the BBC version, say unless you're a star, got any THC.
Oh,
do that once. But that's on the BBC one. But yeah, it's great solo. Yeah, it's not one of my favorites, but you just can't like everything. So
right, exactly.
Yeah. So moving on to My Way or the Highway.
Okay, speaking of not liking everything, I've never been into this song. You're talking about the album taking a dip. To me, this is the real dip. I mean, this is just so. The one thing I noticed when I was listening to this album again this past week, that guitar line sounds a little like Bang a Gone Get It On by T-Rex.
It does. Yeah. I fully agree with you, John. I don't care for this song. I never did. There's nothing much there. There's nothing much to it.
Yeah.
And compared to the greatness that came before. So, and again, I think what it does is that when you're hearing a song that you're not particularly into, it makes me get annoyed with the production even more.
Okay.
So to me, this felt like a throwaway. This felt like a jam that ended up being recorded. The song that they ended up putting on the remastered version, Somebody for Me, I think is a better song. I think there are songs like I Make Believe that they ended up on the Unearthed. There are better songs they could have put on here. And that this is 1982, so or No Way at All. Well, that makes me think of Turn Me Loose by Loverboy. Even the way he sings it, I'm like,
right.
They already did that. I don't know. It's just never been one. And that's we're coming up on half of side 2, so that's a big chunk out of it. So yeah, to me, that's where this album takes. It's starting to plummet a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's funny you read my mind, and because I wrote in my notes, Somebody for Me could have replaced My Way or the Highway.
Easy.
Yes. Oh gosh, that would fit right in with the rest of the album perfectly, like a glove.
Yeah. I'd leave Bar and Boogie in there because it did become a live staple and
yes.
What I think of it, whatever. I just don't think My Way or the Highway is a very good song. I mean, it just sounds like it sounds below their standards.
It does.
Yeah. But enough
Agreed.
about that. So we'll go with the closer proper. Another closing ballad, Wind of Change.
This is okay, but it might be my least favorite of their ballads. It doesn't, all their other ballads, there's these great solos or great choruses that will bring you in. I'm not saying that the solos aren't good on here, because they are, but they're not solos they're so memorable you can sing them. I think this was a good attempt at emotional power ballads and the album, just like they did with I Believe in You off of Earthshaker, but I don't think it quite catches fire. I do like it more than My Way or the Highway. Because, like you said, that feels like a throwaway. I would agree with that. But Winds of Change, I think, yeah, I don't, and it's over 6 minutes, which is fine, but when you need something really memorable for a 6 minute song, and here it just, you're waiting for it to take off and it doesn't. So that's my thoughts on Winds of Change.
I like it. It doesn't have the punch of I Believe in You, certainly, but I do like it. I think it's atmospheric. I think, Dave's vocals are really good on it. It's not the same type of heartfelt vocal that I Believe in You is. He's saying about more generality in life and stuff. But after two songs that I'm not particularly partial to, to me, I think the reason that I do like it is because it is an improvement and it is a good way to close the album. I think I like the version on Yesterday and Today Live a little better because, again, we don't have that thuddy production.
Right.
And Dave's, I think Dave's vocals just got better and better and better. So by the time 1990 rolls around, he's doing this older material. I think he's singing it even better than he did in the studio. There's nothing wrong with the studio recording, but his voice was a lot deeper back then.
It was.
I've always noticed that sometime in between Mean Streak and In Rock We Trust, all that deepness kind of went away, and he's starting to use his higher register. But we'll get to that when we get there. But so that's why, like, of the, it's usually considered to be the trilogy, right? Earthshaker, Black Tiger, Mean Streak. That's why Black Tiger's always been the inferior of the third. Having said that, it's still a great album. You know what I mean? It's still Y&T. It's still got so many classics. And it's just that I think they front loaded it. Side one is definitely superior to side two. But, you can't really go wrong with any of the albums. I wouldn't necessarily start someone with this, but it could be a lot of people's favorites. So who am I to say? All the elements that make Y&T great are still here.
Absolutely. Yes. So, I mean, another strong melodic hard rock album. I mean, which has a lot of their great songs, and they still play about 3 or 4 of these songs live.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, this is another enduring and endearing album by their fans. I mean, very good. Has aged very well. I mean, no matter, regardless of what we've said about the production, I think the songs have aged very well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a minor quibble. I mean, there's lots of great albums from the 70s and 80s that you have to listen through the production, and there's good songs under there. It's got a ton of good songs on here.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah. So there you go, folks. That is our 2 cents or 4 cents or whatever on Black Tiger from 1982, Y&T's 4th album. We are continuing with our Y&T deep dive, and we thank everybody for watching. And John, as always, thanks for sitting in, doing these, and talking Y&T. Don't forget, folks, my Y&T book, Down for the Count, Y&T album review, which John is a part of, available on Amazon. And we'll be back with another Y&T deep dive, and we won't stop until they're done. So there you go. Thanks, everybody, for watching this edition of Tim's Vinyl Confessions.